So this class is, I am Sister Frost, and this class is on the discipline. Hopefully you will not be disappointed. I'm not sure it would be really discipline, if they may have titled that wrong, but you guys can be the judges out at the end of this session. So, are you ready, brother?
Yeah. When we first started,
Well, first they're going to do the one of them for me.
demonstrating on how 11.
Yeah, he's going to do it.
I'm out of control.
He's going to be my out of control child, which he kind of is already. So. This is my son-in-law. So. We're kind of in the same boat though. We're like, there's no controlling either one of us, I don't think.
There you go.
And if I'm not loud enough, please tell me. I can be louder if I need to. Okay, not yet. Okay. First, I'm going to have Sister Chelly come up, and she's going to start this. I don't know if they'll see you up there. They may have to sit up there. Yeah. But you're going to have to be loud. Try to be loud. Yeah. Be a teacher. All right.
Well, today I'm going to teach you guys a song, okay?
Oh, hi.
So I'm Sister Chelly.
Oh, I like jelly.
Yeah.
I don't like my jelly too hot, though.
Okay, I didn't say chili, I said Sister Chelly.
Yeah, I know, jelly.
Yeah, and what is your name?
My name is Billy, like a goat. But I'm not really a goat. I'm just a kid.
Right, you're just a kid.
I'm just a little kid.
All right, well, I'm going to teach you a song, okay?
Ooh, I like songs. Oh, I like to sing a lot of them. Jesus loves me, this I know. For the Bible tells me so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what exactly this is?
That's like, when Grandma sews me a pair of pants or something, she sews, and so Jesus loves me so.
Oh, like sewing. Okay.
I'm going to play on American Idol someday.
Okay, all right.
And Grandma also sews me like little verses on my underwears, because I have accidents sometimes.
Oh, because you're a little boy, right?
Yeah, I just had one, actually.
All right.
There's a verse there.
All right, well, let's carry on. We'll take care of that later. All right, so I'm going to teach you a song today about grace.
Oh, I know all about Grace. I know Grace really good.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah, I'm a pro. I know Grace.
Oh, okay.
She's in my other class.
Oh, no. That's not the kind of grace I'm talking about.
There's another Grace. I'd like to meet her. But all the Graces I know are really pretty. They make me feel things inside.
Okay. I was talking about, like the concept of grace.
Did you touch me?
That was a late reaction,
No,
Billy.
don't touch me. You can't touch me. I'll tell my dad.
All right, let's carry on, Billy. All right, so here we go with the song, all right?
All right, let's sing.
It's about a man named Zacchaeus.
Zechariah.
No, Zacchaeus.
Zerubbabel.
No, Zacchaeus.
Zucchini.
No, Zacchaeus.
Okay, Zacchaeus.
All right, let's move on.
All right,
so it goes like this, all right? Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Okay. Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Billy. All right, I won't touch you.
I'll stick the law on you.
We don't want that now. All right, let's move on here. All right, so.
You're saying
Okay, we mean like short, like.
Hey, what's wrong with short people?
There's nothing wrong with short
My
people,
dad
Billy.
said there's nothing wrong with short people.
There's
And
nothing
I told him there's nothing wrong with being ugly either.
Can we just move on and show you the song? All right, here we go. You ready? Okay.
Stay short instead.
Yeah, we'll say short.
Yeah.
All right, so Zacchaeus was a short little man, and a short little man was he. He climbed up the sycamore tree.
Is it gonna be okay?
What's gonna be okay?
The tree! I heard it's really sick. You just said it was sick.
I
I
did
can
not
write
say-
a card and I can get my grandma to make some cookies and I'll go visit her hospital. Is he gonna be okay? Does he need surgery?
I never
Don't
said.
touch me!
Okay.
Now look what you made me do. I dropped my pen.
I'm sorry, Billy. All right, I did not say sick. I said sycamore tree.
It's more sick? You just told me it was sick. How's it getting worse?
Okay, that's the name of the tree, Billy. All right, here we go. We're gonna start from the beginning here. All
Okay,
right.
change the tree. I don't like sycamore. It's sad.
All right, okay, so we're gonna call it. He climbed up the oak tree.
Like, okay, tree. Okay, okay.
Yes, something like that. Okay, so Zacchaeus was a short little man, and a short little man was he. He climbed up the oak tree for the Lord he wanted to see.
Are we gonna see the Lord?
Yes, the Lord's already here.
Well, where is he? Because I'm not even wearing my bow tie, and I've got boogers this morning, and I didn't put on deodorant in my feet stage, and I don't think I have any good. Jesus is here.
Okay. Let's just calm down, all right? Just understand.
Yeah.
God will take you just as you are. It is totally okay. You do not need
Jesus is gonna take me. Who's gonna take me? Am I gonna die today? Oh, no! You're gonna die.
Billy, you are I know, there's that square right there, right? That's your zone right
Don't
there.
touch me there. That's it. I know.
Yes, okay, all right. So can we move on here? All right. For the Lord he wanted to see, and as the Savior passed his way,
He passed away. Nobody ever tells me these things. Why did I find out the Savior passed away in a song? This is terrible.
he's okay. I said
You
he
said he passed away.
No, I didn't say he passed away. I said he passed his way, like he walked
Trees
here.
and kidnapping and the Savior passing away. This is a terrible song.
Billy, he's okay.
Good, okay.
All right, so
Tree.
yes, the oak tree is okay. All right, so here we
Savior's
go.
okay too.
Everybody's okay, Billy. Are you okay?
I'm boring, but that's all.
All right. I'm sorry. All right, let's carry on. So you ready? All right, so for the Lord he wanted to see, and as the Savior passed his way, he looked up in that tree and he said, Zacchaeus, you!
You stop leaning that tree. You're gonna make it more sick.
Can you guys see that video? Okay. That little guy, that was in my Sunday school office, by the way. So we do know discipline. Just like I mentioned earlier, I don't know about the discipline, but I want to rephrase that and call it how to love the hard to love. If you've seen this child, you may think that's a child that may be hard to love, difficult to love, thrown a fit. But we don't know the story behind that little boy. For one thing, on our buses, we don't pick up the children that have diapers or pull-ups. So if they're that young where they wear a diaper or a pull-up, they don't usually come on our bus. This young boy had a pull-up on. He had an accident, he was upset, and he probably was going to get in trouble when he got home. So he was more than likely upset about all of that altogether. So we never know what is going on with that. And then how many of you have some kids that are like this? Just don't touch me, don't go there. They want to talk the whole time you're trying to explain anything. And just interrupting all the time, all the time, all the time. You're going to have kids like that. First off, I'm going to say I'm just a normal person just like everybody else in this room. I'm not a psychologist. Just many years of just dealing with children, and some with behavior, some with ADHD, like my son-in-law. No. I actually have directed our children's choir, and I had a little boy that was ADHD, and when I directed the choir, I had to hold his hand while directing or teaching the kids their song. Sure, I could have sent him back to his parents, but if I did that, he wouldn't be able to sing with the choir in the sanctuary. And I did not want that to happen. So instead, I'll just hold your hand. So he was fine with coming up and holding my hand. And that's how I taught the song, just holding his hand. And then that way when we got, and behold, when we got to the sanctuary and on the platform, he stood there and was completely fine. So I don't know, when you're doing something else that's not as structured, then they get a little bit carried away. So I want to go on to explain. When I was about 16, I had a dream about some people, and they were selling kids. And that is when I became involved with Sunday school. I was a young teenager. This put a burden on my heart that impacted me to the point where I just wanted to help kids, all kids. I have young adults that live in my home right now, and I just have that burden for them, whether they're young or whether they're old. There's something in them that they need to be loved. When you think a child is unlovely or unlovable, well, really it comes down to they are unloved, which they have not had that love in their life, whether it's from their family or from other kids or school classmates. They have felt unloved, or they've all abused. So I have so much here, and I'm hoping I get to it. But teaching in today's world is a challenge, especially when you have kids that are challenging. It's hard to keep everybody else focused when you have kids that disrupt your classroom, and they're either talking out of turn, or they want to keep a seat, or they just want attention is what it comes down to. A child is going to get attention, whether it's good attention or it's bad attention. If Susie is good all the time, then you're always praising her and you're always telling her how good she is. And, she sits so nicely and she sits still. But Johnny doesn't know how to sit still because he may have ADHD, or he's got a home life that's terrible. Something's going on at school. There's something going on in his life. And so he has a hard time controlling himself. I don't know why I'm saying that guy's name. I guess I could call her Susie. Susie has a hard time. I don't want to pick on the guys. It's not just all your guys. Girls too. Girls have issues too. But he has a hard time sitting and behaving himself. So of course you're going to be calling out his name, telling him to be quiet, telling him to straighten up, stop kicking the chair, doing all these things. Well, is he getting attention too? Yeah, he's still getting attention. It may be bad attention, but he's still getting it because that's the only attention that he knows how to get. He's never been praised. He's never had good things said about him. I had one student in my classroom when I taught at our private school that, now I'm human just like you, so he just really got under my skin. And to really find a compliment for him, when the kids come in, you want to give them a compliment, tell them how nice they look, notice their shoes, your hair looks like anything. But I seriously just didn't have anything good to say about this little boy. I'm just going to be honest with you and put myself out there. That is the truth. Until I finally decided, you know what? He has a really nice smile. And that's where it started. And the more that I noticed him and paid attention to him in a good way, his behavior, guess what, started changing. And it's because he felt that love. Now, probably not at first because I really didn't have it in my heart for him. I'm sorry to say that, but I didn't. But the more I gave him some praise and some good attention, the more he changed and started his behavior pattern of being good. And then, in return, I started giving him more love. And it just works that way. It was a two-way street. And by the end of my school year, he was a good student, he was a top student, and I didn't have that behavior issue anymore. So to me, when it comes down to it, it's giving them love and giving them attention that they need. And I'm not going to just point it out to it's just a bus kid, because you want to. They come from such crazy lifestyles, crazy homes, more than 1, 2, 3 parents. Mom may have been married more than once or twice. Dad may be married more than they may live out of state. There may be abuse there. But it doesn't just happen with our bus kids. We have our own kids in our own church that we don't know their home life either. Not every home is a perfect home that there's just happiness and joy. Even in our own churches, it's not like that. So even if we have kids that are in our church that are crying out for attention, you need to be sensitive to what God needs you to give to those children, because you never know what's going on in any other lives. Just like you don't know what's going on in my life, and I don't know what's going on in your life. You think that when you see somebody and they're grumpy or they're just in a bad mood, that why are they like that? Well, you don't know what's happened in their life. You don't know the path that they walked in. And we think that with adults, but we need to think that with children also. We do not know what they're going through as a child in their home life. I heard a story one time about an abused child that he didn't want to dress out for his PE class. And the reason why he didn't want to dress out for his PE class is because he got in trouble at home with his father. His father had abused him, and he had the marks on his legs. Well, it wasn't because he didn't want anybody to see those marks. It was because he didn't want the teacher to see the marks that showed how bad he was. Think about that. He took it upon himself to think that he must have been bad to deserve this, where no child deserves to be beaten like that. So he did not want his other teacher to see this. So to be mindful and to think about different things like this, or an obese girl who for the first time heard the words "I love you" from a counselor, where she had never heard the words "I love you" from anybody, not even her parents. But it had turned her life around so much that in that whole year she had lost 100 pounds. And the mother was so appreciative and had went to that counselor and approached them and told them, "Thank you so much for the words that you spoke to my daughter." It can just be in a word, it can be in a hug, it can be in things that you do to help that child. We have a boy in our Sunday school, his name is Tristan, and he's been in our Sunday school since Brianna helped teach the 3rd and 4th grade class. He was in there. He loved Brianna. He went for her wedding. He was there all day, from morning, all day until after the wedding, just so he could see Brianna whenever he could see her. But he still comes to our Sunday school. How long ago was that?
All right. So, when is our mission?
I think he's in 9th grade now. He still comes. But he used to smile, and he used to, cut up. He got in a lot of trouble sometimes. But now you can tell he has a hurt inside of him. And my oldest son invited him over to our house. He said, "Mom, I'm going to invite Tristan over for Taco Sunday. Is that okay?" "Sure, you can." And then he took him shopping, and he wanted to bring him to church that night. And he came to church, and I'm hoping and praying that he will continue to come. If you was in Brother Booker's class before this one, he mentioned that when they get to actually junior high, they start kind of drifting off. They have their own friends. So if you don't reach out and connect with them,
church
you will lose them.
The church I grew up in.
So you need to make connection with them somehow.
Oh my goodness. My daughter's it's incredible. It's night and day.
The Bible tells us that love is patient and love is kind, and those are things that we need to use with these kids. To just be patient with them and to love them unconditionally, because that's really, really what they want, is just to be loved. Now, to go back to the discipline part, we do in our class, discipline, sometimes it's a harsh word. Obviously, in our spare the rod, spoil the child, we believe in that. But in Sunday school, you can't raise your hand to them. You can't discipline them in any form or fashion like that. Sure, you could put them on timeout, but I don't recommend a timeout in the classroom. So if they're goofing off in the classroom or they're acting out, I tell my teachers, we have more than one teacher in our classroom. And that's safety. That should be anywhere you go with a Sunday school child. You should have one or you should have 2 or more people with you all the time, just as a protection of yourself. So in my classroom, usually we have 3 or 4 people in each classroom. So if you're up here teaching, when you're teaching or if you're doing anything up here, it is not your place, now this is just me, to call anybody out. You just keep doing what you're doing, and your helpers should be aware of what's going on with the kids. And sometimes when they're acting up, just your presence. Now, if you don't have anybody or you just have two of you in there, just your presence while you're teaching, if they're on the front row, you can just go and stand by them to get their attention, or even to put your hand on their shoulder so that they know that you've noticed that, hey, Sister Frost knows that I'm coming off, and we have had, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. We have some kids that are in our day and age now that there's just so much going on in their life that they just cry out for attention. And that's the only thing they know to do is to act up. So you have to choose wisely how to approach different situations. Some people would be fine with just the touch on the shoulder and the presence being there. Some kids are not going to be okay with that. If you, I don't know how many of you have a Sunday school office where the Sunday school superintendent is? Anybody? No. You do? Oh, thank you, Sabrina. I know you do. That's me. So I have my own office. And if the kids behave, and I stress to my teachers, you need to work with them as much as possible, because you don't want to just push them out the first offense they get. Now, if it's a continual, you've had to talk to them several times, or your helpers had to talk to them, okay, well then they will send them down to me, as this little boy was sent down to me. And what can you do with that? You just let him throw his fit. I mean, I can't put him on timeout, I can't give him a spanking, I can't do anything. You just let him throw his fit. And if they're finished, then you possibly can talk to them. But when they're that young, there's really nothing you can do. You can talk to their parents. Now this one doesn't come because he's too young. So we'll wait a few more months, and this is what we happen to do, even with the older kids. If it's a continual, all the time that we have to, they're sitting down to me, then we go to their parent. If it's a bus kid in the community, we go to the parent and we say, we'd love to have Johnny with us, but right now he is just not ready for Sunday school. I mean, but that's after we've exhausted everything we know to do to try and help him. And then we wait a couple months, and then we go back to the home and have him come back. We don't ask if he's ready. Mom and Dad don't know if he's ready. We just go back and re-invite him. We'd like to have Johnny come back to Sunday school, and then we bring him back. And he may be a totally different kid by then, or he may be totally worse than what he was when that first happened. You don't never know how it's going to work. But the main thing is to exhaust all your resources of what you know to do. and to help them. A lot of times they get redirection. Sometimes just helping them and getting them involved in the classroom, in stories, in doing the songs. If you do songs in your class, have them come up. Now I know you don't want to pick bad kids, but really, there's no bad children. It's bad behaviors and good behaviors. So to punish him by not having him come up and help you do some motion songs, that's not okay. He needs to come up. He needs to be used. He needs to be involved in the lesson, in the songs, in the memory verse. Now, not all the time, because there's other kids. Because pretty soon you're going to have good kids acting like he does, so they could come up, and that's going to be reversed, and that's not going to be good. So there's a balance there, and you've got to just keep in mind what your kids need. And my husband, been more than a few years back, but he cut his finger, and when he cut his finger, he cut the nerve of his finger. So he works in construction, and when he had to have surgery, but to still put his finger in the pouch to get the screws or the nails, he had a hard time because of that nerve. Now, with us in our personal life, if we have no prayer and if we have not bonded with God, we've severed that nerve to where there's no blood flow between us and God. Our communication is lost. And so if we do that and we don't have a prayer life to pray about our class, about our kids, about our teachers, we're not going to know what our kids need. And that's one thing that's important, is to make sure you pray for your students, every one of them, even the terror that sits on the front row or the back row or the middle of the rows. You need to pray for them so that God can help you in directing that child and deliver what they need, because that's what is important.
Now you say, well, I don't have control.
I have junior high kids. Now our junior high and our high school is kind of separate than our Sunday school. They have the youth leader that has those classes, and college career minister that has that class. So they're not under me. But those kids, because they were in our Sunday school, they still come over to my office every Sunday to give me a hug. Not to get in the treasure box, not to get candy, but just to come and get a hug from me, because that's what they're used to, and they feel that love. So to me, if I can keep them coming back just so they can get a hug, then at least they're coming back for something, and that with them coming, they can still be touched, and God can still deal with their hearts. So a few things that I want to direct is to let them know that they matter. If you don't acknowledge them when they come into your classroom, they're just a person. There's nothing important about them. You need to let them know that they matter. You need to notice them. You need to compliment them. You need to find something about them so that they can see that you have noticed them, that you are paying attention to them. Look at them and not look past them. When you're looking at a child, don't look past them and let your eyes wander and let your own self be distracted by what's going on, but just focus on that one child. And they're going to feel important because you're paying attention to them and not everything else around them. Listen to them. Some of these kids have something to say. They want to say something. They want to pour out what they're going through or what they've been through. Even if it's something at school, listen to them. Ask them questions about themselves. I always ask them when they come, the junior high kids when they come in, how was your week? What did you do at school? Did you do anything with your family? I always try and ask them something to help them open up.
Any questions?
Just show up. Just show up. That means you need to be in your Sunday school class. Kids need stability, and that's in school, in their families, and in Sunday school. So show up to your class and be prepared. Let them see that by doing your class, decorating your class, being prepared for your class, your team is prepared, that you care. And that's one way to show that you care. Be excited to see them. Now I know, because I've done this myself, Lord, I hope Johnny doesn't come today because, oh, it just goes a whole lot smoother when he's not in Sunday school this morning. So everybody has done that. I know everybody's done that. Because it just goes smoother. So let's be excited to see them, regardless of how the day, it's like you have 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half with them for just one day out of 7 days. You have 1 day to reach them. And if you're just going to push them away, not notice them, not give them a hug, and not treat them with love and patience, then they're not going to want to come back. They are not going to see that love that they need to see. Because some of them, you are the only Jesus that they're going to ever know. And that's Jesus coming through you. And so you need to show that and let them see that in you. So be excited to see them. Laugh with them. I'm going to say laugh with them, but you know what? It's okay to cry with them too. I've cried with a few of mine. I've laughed with a few of mine. And they need to see that when you do this, you're showing them that you do care about what is going on in their life. Forgive them if they mess up. They're going to mess up. We mess up. But forgive them if they act out in their class and they do stuff they're not supposed to. Don't hold it against them and hold that grudge till the next week. Oh, I remember what he did last week. Oh my goodness. No. Forgive them. Forgive them when they mess up. And to love them no matter what. No matter what happens, show them love. I don't know what time we have. Is it 2:40? I don't know, if I tell you this song, it might show my age, but some of you may know it. And I'm thinking Lanny Wolf sang it years ago, and it was called The Boy's Name was Steve. Does anybody remember that song? Now, I'm not going to hurt your ears by singing it, but I am going to tell you the words because when God placed a burden on my heart for kids, now, my dad thinks I'm crazy. Probably not really, but I really am. But he always tells me, Sonia, you need to slow down. You go, 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 all the time. And the only thing I can tell him is, you know what, as long as God gives me strength, this is what I'm going to do. If it's with the kids, this is what I'm going to do. I took over the children's choir, Brother Bradford gave me the children's choir, and I did that for a while. Sunday school came open, and then he put me in there temporarily, which was 10 years ago. And so there I am, still 10 years later. But then he opened it up and said, anything that has to do with the kids falls under your umbrella. So anything that we do falls under my umbrella, which is nothing to me. I mean, I'm not saying that to bring myself up, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying I've dealt with a lot of kids, but that is where my burden is. And if it keeps me busy, that's good. And if God, as long as God gives me the strength, I'm going to do it. I no longer do the children's choir, but I do take care of the Sunday school. But this song, when that dream came upon me when I was a teenager, and I cried and cried and cried, I thought, how can, and it tears me up when I hear things that happen with kids. In my home right now, my youngest lives with me, she's 21. We took in a young girl, Emily, right when she turned 18. She came to live with us right before my husband had passed, but she came to live with us, and she was from a dysfunctional family, so there's Emily. And now I have another young girl that lives with me, Kelsey, and then 3 siblings that their mom passed away 6 months ago, and I took those 3 in. And so The boy is 17, and all the rest of them are 21 to 25, so they're young adults. But they're in my home, and that's why I said, whether they're young or whether they're old, as long as God gives me the strength, that's what my calling is. I want to help kids, young or old. So this song, I'm going to tell you the words. It says, the boy's name was Steve. He wasn't quite 5. And when they found him that day, he was barely alive. Just an old pair of jeans, a face full of fear, dirty bare feet, eyes filled with tears. And what he said still burns in my ears. Crying, please, won't somebody love me? I've been all over town, but I still haven't found anybody to say, come over to my house today. Oh, please, won't somebody love me? And that song still, I forgot about it for so many years, and then when they had asked me to do this, it just hit me, just out of nowhere. And that was the song that just made that burden in me even stronger. I would have thought over all these years, since being a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, that burden would have just kind of, did you think that, okay, it's time to move to a different ministry, time to do something different, but you know what? Sometimes it's not time to move. That's where God wants you, that's where you want to be. Being in the children's ministry is, I'm going to be honest, it's not for everybody. It's just not. But if you're in there and that's where you feel you need to be, you need to love them. That's what they need, is to love them. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
And let's just say you're in class and you're writing or you have one other person over there helping
Somebody else.
just like that with their that. Do you have any techniques to regain your confidence moving forward? Because they're going to have to address it.
Right.
Because there's no one else to do it, or they're going to rob all.
You do rob them.
Kids you have. They're just going to feel it, and they'll feel every single time.
Right. Right. I don't know, are you coming out to church?
No.
Well, I seen you over there, but, okay, is your church a big church or a small?
No, it's a big church.
Oh, okay. Well, my suggestion, she's asking, is there anything to, with that scenario with Billy, to help control that situation? If you have other kids that are over here doing the acting up and you already got a helper over there, if you are from a church that's a decent size, I might even ask somebody that's older in the church, maybe a pillar in the church, an elder in the church, if they would come and sit. Because sometimes they maybe just need somebody to sit. And some of our elders have so much patience. I have more patience now than what I did when I was younger with my own kids. I do. And everybody thought I was really patient then, but I don't think I was very patient at all. I would suggest maybe asking an elder or even a young person. We have our T-Rocket group, which San Jose has a Blue Bomber crew. We have a T-Rocket group. And so I sometimes will have one of the T-Rocket teenagers come in, but I usually pick one that I know that is pretty stern and they're not going to be playing with them also at the same time, so that they can just sit there with that one. Now, if it just continues and continues, you can talk to them. You can go to their home and talk to their parents. If it continues, and if you've given them praise and give them love and just keep pouring it out to them, even reach out to them through the week, maybe you and your other Sunday school team can pick them up and take them to McDonald's or something like that to give them some attention. after you've exhausted all those resources, I have done this with an older girl. I took her home, just like I would have done with the younger one, and said, you know, we have issues with Emily. Now, we had Emily since she was in the nursery or kindergarten class, all the way up until 6th grade. She was going into 7th grade, and she just, we had her all that time, and we tried, I mean, those were years, I'm talking that we have worked with her. And she was always, she already knew when she grew up she wanted to be a thinker in 6th grade. And that's really sad. So she already knew, and she was so defiant and just rebellious. And she always acted like she hated me when I talked to her. But when I went and dropped her off and I talked to her mom, I let her know, Emily, I love you. And she told me she loved me back after all this time of just like being ugly to me. So to this day, I don't know where she is, but she was planted that seed all those years, and to me, all you can do is pray for them, you know, after that point. But I would address the parents, and then they may have to take a break, and then go back and get them again. That's what I would do. It sounds like they're done, but does anybody have any other questions or want to add to?
You mentioned these kids that just so desperately want attention, using them. I found that works really well. I have one kid in particular that comes to mind, and I'm sure this is not a unique case, where every time I try and bring them up and get them involved, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a skit or songs, he always deviates from whatever the class is doing and does his own thing. And he uses it to get up there and get attention, but then he does his own thing. So is there any way that I can kind of like channel that back to something your class is doing?
Probably not, unless you give them something else to do, or just set them down, and just maybe after Sunday school, then address them. You don't want to address them in front of the class because that's an embarrassment and a humiliation to them, and you don't ever want to do that with kids. We don't like to be done that ourselves, so why would we want to do it to a child? But I would take them aside after Sunday school and say, you know, I want to use you. I love you, I care about you, and I know you enjoy it when you come up and help, but I need you to pay attention and help and not go try and do something else. Okay. Thank you guys all for coming.